let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at the dramatic rise and fall of an absolute genius, a man who literally designed the foundation of the modern electrical world, but whose life, well, it reads almost like a classical tragedy. We're exploring the life of Nikola Tesla, the man, the myth, the alternating current.
It's the ultimate tragic contradiction, and I really want to pose this directly to you as we get started. How on earth did the man who lit the world, a visionary holding hundreds of patents, how did he end up dying completely penniless and alone? To understand this crazy Icarus arc of his legendary life, we actually need to go back to the very beginning. So part 1, the spark of genius from Smiljan to the USA. Tesla was born in 1856 in the village of Smiljan, right in the Austrian Empire. Now, what's super fascinating here is that while his dad was an Orthodox priest, Tesla credited his famous eidetic memory, that wild ability to perfectly visualize and recall information, and his creative genius entirely to his mother, Duca. Even without any formal education, she just had this incredible natural talent for inventing and crafting complex mechanical appliances for their home. That very genius brought him to the United States in 1884, where he quickly landed a gig working at the Edison Machine Works in New York. But guys, this is where we see the very first clash between Tesla's pure engineering mind and the absolutely brutal reality of business. As the story goes, Tesla was offered a massive $50,000 bonus to redesign some standard machines. He worked tirelessly, pulled it off, but when he went to collect his payout, he was hit with a practical joke. Thomas Edison allegedly quipped, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Whether it was Edison himself or just a manager, the outcome was exactly the same. Tesla instantly resigned. It perfectly highlights his utter brilliance, sure, but also his deep naivety in the corporate world. Moving on to part 2, winning the current war, the AC revolution. After a really rough patch of quite literally digging ditches just to survive, Tesla actually secured backing to develop something totally revolutionary. He'd conceived of an alternating current, or AC, induction motor. The massive advantage here was that alternating current allowed for long-distance, high-voltage power transmission. That was something direct current, or DC, just simply couldn't do efficiently at all. Once that motor was developed, the sheer speed of his success was honestly astounding. In 1887, he builds the AC induction motor. By 1888, the visionary industrialist George Westinghouse sees its potential and licenses Tesla's patents. Talk about a game-changing financial and strategic move. This rapidly snowballed to 1893 when the Westinghouse company uses Tesla's polyphase alternating current system to put on a dazzling, massive electrical display at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. For the very first time, the American public got to see a safe, reliable, and just spectacular electrical grid in action. That exposition essentially ended the incredibly high-stakes war of currents. Edison's direct current system, championed by Edison Electric, was severely limited by distance. It just couldn't go far. Tesla's alternating current system, backed by Westinghouse, decisively won out. And this victory was so absolute, so clear-cut that it actually landed them the massive contract to harness the power of Niagara Falls. That single move absolutely cemented AC as the global standard for electricity. Which brings us to part 3, the wireless dream, reaching for the sky. So, with his wealth totally secured from those AC patents, Tesla does something unexpected. He makes a dramatic pivot. He completely steps away from the practical engineering that built the grid and essentially transforms into a grand showman chasing these wildly visionary experiments. The literal foundation for these new ambitions was a famous invention he patented back in 1891, the Tesla coil. Basically, this was a resonant transformer circuit with an air gap, specifically designed to pump out high-voltage, low-current, high-frequency alternating current electricity. At first, he used it to play around with wireless lighting. He'd literally dazzle audiences by holding glowing tubes with absolutely no wires attached to them, completely powered by the electromagnetic field pulsing right there in the room. But, of course, he needed way more space to test the absolute limits of this tech. So, in 1899, he moves out to a high-altitude station in Colorado Springs. Operating on a truly terrifying scale, Tesla started producing artificial lightning discharges up to 135 feet in length. We're talking thunder that could be heard for miles. During this time, he became entirely convinced that he could transmit not just communication signals, but massive amounts of actual industrial power, completely wirelessly, straight through the Earth and the atmosphere. To fund this ultimate grand vision, Tesla actually convinced the incredibly powerful financier J.P. Morgan to invest a staggering $150,000 in 1901.
To put that into perspective, that'd be nearly $6 million today. That enormous pile of money was poured straight into the Wardenclyffe Tower project out on Long Island, as Tesla set his sights on building a literal intercontinental wireless communication and power transmitter. But here's the catch. The race for wireless supremacy was incredibly tight, and sadly, Tesla lost. In December 1901, Guglielmo Marconi successfully transmitted the letter S via radio waves all the way from England to Newfoundland. Marconi achieved intercontinental communication first, and he did it using a much simpler, much cheaper system. Because of that, Wall Street investors practically tripped over themselves fleeing Tesla to go back Marconi. The funding dried up completely almost overnight, and that massive, unfinished Wardenclyffe Tower came to a grinding, permanent halt. And that takes us to part 4, eccentricity and decline, the fade. Following the total collapse of Wardenclyffe, Tesla suffered what a lot of biographers actually suspect was a severe nervous breakdown. He experienced a complete loss of funding. He started moving constantly between various New York hotels, leaving this long trail of unpaid bills, and slowly, he began a sad descent into severe eccentricity. For a while, he managed to maintain his public profile by holding these annual birthday press conferences. But honestly, his claims became increasingly bizarre. I mean, he pitched an earthquake-inducing mechanical oscillator, a motor that supposedly ran entirely on cosmic rays, a literal thought camera that could photograph your retina to record your thoughts, and probably most famously, a super weapon called Teleforce, which the press immediately dubbed the Death Ray. Now, while the reporters usually treated the aging inventor with a lot of respect, we have to note that these claims were completely unproven, and honestly, many of them were physically impossible. The day-to-day reality of his life, though, was starkly different from those grand futuristic weapons he described to the papers. At one point, he racked up a staggering $20,000 unpaid bill at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel alone. To settle that massive debt, he was quite literally forced to mortgage the Wardenclyffe property. It was the absolute final nail in the coffin of his wireless dream, and it effectively marked his complete and total financial ruin. Toward the end, his daily routine didn't consist of grand laboratory experiments at all. Instead, it was mostly just walking to the local park to feed the pigeons. He'd actually bring injured birds back to his hotel room to nurse them. And in just a completely heartbreaking juxtaposition to his own crushing debts, he reportedly spent over $2,000, which was an absolute fortune at the time, just to comfortably care for one specific injured white pigeon that visited him daily. He even built a tiny mechanical device to support her broken wing. Finally, part 5, an enduring electric legacy, the vindication. On January 7, 1943, at the age of 86, Nikola Tesla passed away, utterly alone in room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker. But thankfully, his story does not end in obscurity. When you look back at it, the sheer volume of his intellectual output over his lifetime was just staggering. The man held at least 278 known patents spread across 26 different countries. So while his later ideas kind of faded off into the realm of science fiction, those early patents, the AC motor, the polyphase transmission systems, the foundational elements of radio, those literally built the electrical infrastructure of the entire 20th century. He was actually posthumously vindicated in the courts regarding his radio patents, and today, his name is the official standard unit for magnetic flux density. So I'll leave you with this. Take a second and just look around the room you're sitting in right now. How many times today have you flipped a light switch, plugged in a device, or just relied on the power grid working? Because every single time you do, you are relying directly on the enduring genius of Nikola Tesla. He was a man the world briefly forgot, but his mind continues to quite literally light up our lives every single day.